The kind of loss that doesn't scream but sinks. It lingers. It makes you stare at the final score like it's lying. The Miami Dolphins walk away from Bank of America Stadium, heads heavy, knowing they had it. They were right there. The game was theirs, the pulse of it, the rhythm, the control. But somehow the edge slipped. Now it's 1-4 on the season, and every yard from this Sunday feels like it carved a small wound. The Panthers didn't just beat them. The Dolphins beat themselves in moments that mattered more than anyone wanted to admit. When the lead was still 24-20, there was that moment that turned everything. 4th down. 5 yards to go. The Panthers are staring down their last breath. Ball on the Miami 33. Clock bleeding into the final 3.5 minutes. One stop. Just one. You make that stop, and you can almost taste the victory forming in the air. The slow rhythm of clock-killing runs. The field tilting your way. But Bryce Young stands there like he's been here 1,000 times. The pressure should have swallowed him, but it didn't. He fires, clean, sharp, 17 yards to Jimmy Horn Jr., who splits loose from Rasul Douglas and runs like the field belongs to him. It's not even about the completion. It's the silence that follows. The breath leaving the defense. The Dolphins, again, right on the edge of closing the door, just don't. The drive lives, the hope dies, and the rest is predictable. Carolina finishes what Miami didn't. It's not that the defense was awful all game. It wasn't. But when you've got a chance to make a defining play, to draw the line and say no more, you have to finish it. They didn't. And it's impossible not to wonder, how does this keep happening? Why can't they pressure when it counts? Why does the line collapse the second it matters most? Those are the questions that stick long after the stats fade. But rewind the tape. Go back to the second quarter, when everything looked perfect. 17-0. Control. Dominance. Everything firing, from the offense's rhythm to the defense's energy. You could feel it, right? The Dolphins had Carolina on their knees. But the game is never that simple, never that generous. 4th and 5. Carolina's ball at Miami's 48. One more stop, and it's over before halftime. Jalen Phillips breaks through, closing fast on Young. He almost has him. Almost. But Young slips. He slides left, then right, dancing between collapsing bodies, like time slows for him. And then, out of nowhere, Ted McMillan appears. Rookie. 21 yards. The crowd exhales like it just saw a ghost. A few plays later, touchdown. 17-7. Suddenly, what was supposed to be suffocation turns into oxygen. That single play wasn't just a conversion. It was a door left open, and the Panthers rushed through it. It's not about one player or one missed tackle. It's about rhythm, about a team that starts to believe its own dominance too early. The Dolphins lost their edge the second that pass landed. And maybe you felt it too, that sinking twist that whispers, it's not over. Because with this team, lately, it never is until it's too late. Later, when the game flipped for good, when Carolina finally took the lead, there was still one more chance. The Dolphins had the ball again. The field stretched ahead, the time enough. This is where teams write their redemption stories. You could feel the desperation pulsing. And then nothing. 3 plays and gone. It was like the air vanished. People will talk about the sack. The 3rd down one where Tua had no time, where the line folded in like wet paper. That's fine. But the one that really hurts came before. 2nd down. Jalen Waddle, all alone, middle of the field, waving invisible hands. 15 yards easy. Space wide open. A pass that changes the whole drive. Maybe the game. It never came. That's the play no one can forget because it's not about pressure or scheme. It's about sight, timing, and trust that wasn't there. The kind of miss that burns slow, not loud. Mistakes don't always come from bad execution. Sometimes they come from hesitation, from the heartbeat that skips just when you need it steady. Watching that drive felt like watching belief fade, one snap at a time. It's the cruelest kind of collapse, not loud, just empty. And then, that penalty. The one everyone wishes they could erase. Chop Robinson's hip drop tackle on Bryce Young. It looked aggressive, maybe clumsy. But when the flag dropped, the air went cold. The pressure had just forced an incompletion. Carolina would have been staring at 3rd and 5 from the Miami 27. Manageable. You could have closed the door there. But no. 15 yards. Automatic first down at the 13. And then, 3 plays later, the Panthers score. That's the moment that flipped the scoreboard, flipped the control, flipped everything. It's not even about intent. It's about how one tiny detail spirals into something much bigger. That penalty didn't just move the ball. It moved the game's entire rhythm. You can blame the rules or the officiating, but at the end of the day, the result's the same. Carolina got new life, and Miami handed it over. That's how small the margin is. That's how fragile this team's grip feels right now. But maybe the most telling part came before halftime, when the Dolphins could have buried them. Up 17-0, then 17-7, momentum wobbling. The offense had one more chance to reassert itself. Instead, they went cold. 3 and out. On 3rd and 5, Tua went down under a Sean Robinson sack, caught by a twist at the line that the blockers just didn't read. It's one thing to get beaten physically. It's another to get tricked. That play didn't just kill the drive. It fed Carolina's hope. And that hope turned into a field goal before the break. Suddenly, it's 17-10, not 24-7. You could feel the air tighten. The Dolphins went from dominance to discomfort, and they never really recovered. Football isn't just about skill. It's about timing, emotion, control. And when those crack, everything else follows. This game wasn't lost on one throw, or one flag, or one sack. It was lost in the quiet erosion of focus. The Dolphins started this game like a storm and ended it like a drizzle. And you can't help but feel the frustration pile up. And still, it's not hopeless. That's the maddening part. You watch them, and you see flashes of brilliance, of connection, of speed that no one can touch. The problem isn't talent. It's what happens when a moment tightens, when the margin between victory and regret becomes razor thin. The Dolphins have the weapons. They just keep misfiring when it matters most. The defense looks like 2 different entities, depending on the quarter. Early, they swarm. Later, they hesitate. The pass rush begins fierce, then flickers. The coverage starts sharp, then loosens. You can almost sense the confusion. Who's in charge here? Who's making sure these collapses stop happening? Because they don't feel random anymore. They feel like patterns repeating in slow motion. And the offense, electric 1 minute, flat the next. Tua can throw with precision that stuns. But when the pocket disintegrates, he freezes. The rhythm vanishes. It's not all on him, but it's not off him either. There's a lack of trust, maybe, between the eyes that see the open man and the arm that hesitates to throw. That's not mechanics. That's mindset. You don't lose games like this just because of stats. You lose them because the belief that burns in the first quarter doesn't survive the fourth. When Carolina started clawing back, you could see the Dolphins tighten. That looseness, that swagger, they vanished. Suddenly every throw felt heavier, every play slower. It's not fear exactly. It's something smaller but more dangerous, doubt. And yet, how can you not feel for them? For a team that had it, lost it, tried to fight back, and somehow ended up walking off with that hollow 27-24 sting. You know they'll replay those drives, those 4th downs, those seconds where everything could have changed. That's the worst part, the knowing, the what-if that won't shut up. If they just pressured Young one more step, if Waddle had gotten that ball, if that penalty hadn't been called, if the sack hadn't broken the rhythm, every if becomes its own ghost, following them through the next week, whispering. So now what's next? That's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Can they recover? Can they hold a lead? Finish a drive? Execute when the field shrinks? Because that's what good teams do, they close. They don't let 4th downs become nightmares. They don't let open receivers go unseen. They don't let penalties rewrite endings. There's still a spark in this team, but it's buried under frustration and confusion. You can see the flashes, the kind of speed, the kind of creativity that other teams can't replicate. But flashes aren't enough. Flashes don't win close games. Consistency does. The Dolphins have shown they can dominate. What they haven't shown is that they can endure. The record says 1-4, but that doesn't tell the whole story. This isn't a broken team. It's a team standing too close to its own mistakes. A team that can't yet get out of its own way. And until it does, Nights like this will keep repeating. Different opponents, same heartbreak. There's no simple fix. Not one player, not one scheme change. It's deeper. It's in the way they handle those small, brutal moments where the game tilts and refuses to come back. Every team faces them. Only the best survive them. The Dolphins didn't, not this time. And the sting of that, of being good enough to win but finding a way to lose, will linger longer than the score itself. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe that's the pain that becomes the turning point. Or maybe it's just another chapter in a season that started with hope and keeps rewriting itself in frustration. Either way, the feeling after this one isn't anger. It's emptiness. Because you know they had it. You saw it. And somehow they let it go.